Hi everyone, welcome back to Project No Buy. In today's video, we're going to be exploring what I'm calling one of the shopping deadly sins. I'm not sure if we're going to have 7 or if there's going to be more. So one of the deadly sins of shopping, as well as doing our Chapter 3 journal entry for to buy or not to buy, about your shopping self-portrait. So I guess there's kind of a lot of ground to cover, so I'll try to get right to the point. The first shopping deadly sin that I wanted to talk about was generosity. So in general, these are things that I would consider good traits that have been corrupted into possible avenues of overconsumption by marketing in our society, the narratives that are prevalent around stuff and how we consume things. So I guess to give a little preview of some of the other deadly sins of shopping that I've been thinking about, some other ones are ambition, imagination. We can also do takes on some of the regular 7 deadly sins like greed, envy, and vanity. And wastefulness, as well as trying to avoid waste. These are all corruptions of what could be good intentions in some way, shape, or form. And each of these I'll unpack in its own video over the year as it unfolds. So April's deadly sin of shopping is the impulse to be generous or giving. And so this was something that I noticed when I was doing the series of TikTok reaction videos that I've been kind of continuing on this channel. But I noticed in a lot of these examples, and maybe especially in the whole house declutters, but there have been more specific examples that I haven't shown in these videos. But in a lot of these examples, the reason for shopping, or the justification or impetus, has been buying things for somebody else, or for an occasion, or for some reason we want to give to our community or give to somebody. Or there are examples on other videos that I've seen discussed about people making gifts for like a child's soccer team or a kid's class at school, or the Valentines, or the Burr baskets and Boo baskets and whatever baskets galore. Like, all of this is consuming, and in some cases over-consuming, buying a lot of things that we don't need or that the person hasn't voiced a need for, in the spirit of giving, in the spirit of generosity. It's also the examples of children's closets that are full of clothes, especially baby clothes. That's another really big category for influencers, especially the moms, to show a lot of baby clothes, or they'll have a closet with lots and lots of racks of onesies, right? We're talking about clothes for people that literally don't care about their clothes. And again, it's basically like the excuse to buy something through giving to this other person who does have a need for a certain amount of that kind of stuff, but certainly has no need for over-consuming that kind of stuff. And in a lot of cases, they don't even want this kind of stuff. So in some cases, the generosity can actually be totally unfounded. And instead of giving a gift, we're giving a burden. However, in the languages of marketing, in the languages of our consumer-obsessed society, being generous, giving gifts to your friends, being over the top with occasions and team gifts and class gifts and things like that is seen as aspirational. It's seen as something to strive for. It's seen as, the comments on these videos will be, oh, I wish I had someone in my life to do this for me. I wish my parents did that for me. I wish my friends gave me friend baskets, and I wish we had the money to do that for other people too. It's all aspirational. It's kind of presented as something that we want, or that we should want, and that we should participate in if we have the resources to do so. If we want to show somebody we love them or care about them, or if we want to be a good friend or parent or XYZ, we should do it through these consumer goods. And that's just not the case. And any gifting season, Christmas, Valentine's even, any kind of there's more that have come up that I would never associate with the gifting, the Boo baskets, the Halloween, the Easter. Anything that's a gift-giving occasion has totally been something that people run away with as an excuse to shop, to buy things, to curate a nice little package of stuff that they basically had a built-in excuse to go buy, if that makes sense. And again, you can't really say that the motivations are bad, because you want to surprise and delight somebody with a gift. You want to be generous. You want to be giving. You want to not hoard all your wealth for yourself, or whatever it is. You want to express your love and gratitude and appreciation for someone else. None of these are bad things. And in the spirit of generosity, again, especially seen at Christmas time, that's like the season of giving, right? It's just kind of become a marketing tool to encourage people to buy more and to overconsume on the behalf of others. And so when we see the rooms full of stuff You know, the closet's full of clothes for kids, the toys, the pet toys and foods, and all the accessories you can have for any category of life. It's not for the person, the friends, the pets, the kids, whatever it is, all the time. You know, not all of that is for the recipients. Some of that is for those who are giving in order to give them a reason to shop. And it's just magnified in the case of any influencer out there whatsoever. You know, there's just a reason to shop. It's just an excuse to shop and acquire new things, to accept the PR and the sponsorships. I didn't intend for this month to go hard at the influencers, but alas, that's the direction we've gone. The influencers do not demonstrate the lost art of doing without. And so I guess as the extreme opposite of my individual focus for the month of April is exploring that art of saying no to things, of not bringing in excessive products that we don't actually need, not using things that we wouldn't have thought to use if we weren't shown that people need them or people use them outside of our own kind of, you know, like the setting sprays that I actually didn't need. I didn't have a reasonable use case for, the shave gels that I don't use and wouldn't have tried if other people hadn't shown them to me or online influencers hadn't shown them to me. You know, it's just the things like that. You can do without a lot of these things. Question everything. And I guess also when you consider the response that you get or you see on content that showcases the stuff, right? The parents making the burr baskets for their kids are met with praise or aspiration. You know, I wish my parents did that for me. This is goals. Versus the responses you get on content about minimalism and decluttering kids' toys. And sometimes you get responses of, uh-oh, you better let them have fun with that. You know, like, why are you taking all their stuff away? This looks like a boring childhood or whatever, you know, like this is just what I've seen. Again, you know, like this is not a blanket statement, but I see less of the positive discourse on things like the minimalism creators helping their kids manage their own stuff, giving them the independence to be able to manage their own household. I see some positive comments on that for sure. But in the world at large, in the scheme of social media, especially on the short form TikTok, where overconsumption appears to be glorified time and time again, you know, as a core pillar of the platform, which with the whole TikTok shop thing, like it's no surprise. We don't really see as much of the aspirational decluttering, I guess. You know, and one of the declutters that I showed, one of the focuses was how calming it is to have, you know, it's self-care, I think was the premise of the video. And I like that. I agree with that. And the self-care, like I said in that video, extends to not buying these things in the first place, right? Don't give the burr basket. By not overloading your recipient with that stuff, you are actually being more generous by sparing them the burden of the excess things that they don't really need. And yeah, there's going to be ways around it, right? Like you could give a burr basket full of consumable items only that you know that they need and use. And even that has the possibility to be something for them to manage because they didn't buy the items themselves and they didn't have a need for them beforehand. And we could go into all that, but we've got a journal entry to get to. So it's time to pivot over to buy or not to buy, chapter 3, which is all about your shopping self-portrait. So let me read a little bit of the beginning to set us up for this. I hope by now you've made some exciting discoveries about why you overshop, how it all began, what triggers you, and what the consequences or aftershocks are. If you have not, you can go back to my other 2 videos where we went through chapter 2, the triggers, and chapter 1, how it all began. You can do the journaling along if you want to. Maybe in the process of the eulogy exercise, you've discovered or rediscovered something about what you value in life. It's now time to extend your self-learning by painting your unique shopping self-portrait. And then the chapter goes through a shopping patterns checklist. So it's important to begin sketching the unique profile of your shopping and overshopping behaviors. So you've got to spend a lot of time focusing on each of these elements and kind of building a picture of which ones are true for you and why. So there's a series of questions here. I'll provide screenshots of all of these as I kind of talk through them. Again, this book was used, so the responses are from somebody else, so we're not going to judge, and we're not really going to comment on that. And these are not my responses, but I can share some of them as we go along. So the first question is, when do you shop? With options like before work, lunch hour, after work, weekends, etc. I don't know that I had a specific time of when I shopped. It was kind of just willy-nilly throughout the day, usually online. So that's another question that's coming up though. Where do you shop? Again, you know, for me, it was internet shopping, but there's options here, stores or malls, department stores, discount stores, consignment shops, you know, TV shopping, online shopping. With whom do you shop? Again, I pretty much exclusively shopped alone, but there are many, many options. So alone with help from salespeople, with spouses, with friends, whether they actively participate or not. You know, that's another important piece of it. For whom do you shop? And that kind of goes hand in hand with the topic of the beginning of this video, right? The generosity and the giving being corrupted into shopping for other people. So for whom? And in my case, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, because my generosity was not corrupted in this way. But unfortunately, I'm going to say mostly my shopping was just for myself. And so, you know, primarily for my own pleasure or satisfaction. There's different reasons that you can shop primarily for yourself here. You've got for your own pleasure versus primarily to impact, you know, please impress somebody else, etc. And then, you know, the options continue for spouse or significant other, for children, for parents, siblings, etc. The last categories are kind of the more related to generosity there for use by a group of people without them. You know, the friends, the coworkers, the acquaintances, for somebody specific, for no one specific. How do you acquire something you want is next. So how do you pay for it? Cash, debit, credits, etc. You know, there's a long list of that, ranging from what we would consider maybe normal and socially acceptable to all the way down to deceiving somebody and shoplifting or helping myself to products that belong to someone else. And so, you know, we're really digging deep here. What kinds of goods, services, or experiences do you buy and acquire? And we've got big categories here: clothing, self-care, home furnishings, entertainment, recreation, hobbies, and gifts, home office. And this is kind of the work that I began in March as I was going through all the categories that used to influence me, especially on social media. So we did go through clothing, makeup, home furnishings, and decor. Did we do that yet? I can't actually remember. It's turning into a blur. But yeah, clothing is definitely a category for me. They've got specific categories here, you know, business, leisure, outerwear, whatever. Self-care, which includes the makeup and beauty treatments, home furnishings, which includes the art and the plants and the furniture, kitchenwares. We definitely have done that. So entertainment and hobbies. So books is in this category, movies, concerts, experiences like that. Supplies for hobbies, tickets to events. Gifts is in this category. The next question is, what's your shopping signature? And so this is kind of your kryptonite, I guess, your shopping signature being the things that will get you. And so the categories here include things like free items, giveaways, or great bargains, inexpensive items for comfort or delight. And I think that's one that I fell prey to, right? So when I needed a little pick-me-up or encountered an emotional upset, like I discussed in an earlier video this month, sometimes it would be like a little inexpensive item just for the sake of it to kind of bring some uplift to my day or mood. Practical necessary items, but I buy more quality or features than I need or can afford. Designer styles or status brands. I think this is another one that I fell into. Not necessarily designer or status, but definitely getting the best quality or features that maybe I didn't technically need and couldn't technically afford comfortably or responsibly, even if I never incurred massive debt from shopping or any debt from shopping really. But like, you know, things like the expensive pair of jeans is a case of quality and features that aren't strictly necessary. And there would definitely be too much of that overall, right? In my history of shopping. Not saying that the jeans in particular turned out to be a bad purchase, but going through the list of things I regret buying, of which there have been many videos made on this channel, there are many things in there that maybe were good quality things or things I wanted to try because they were supposedly good quality and were just things that I ended up regretting because I really didn't need to purchase those things. Also included in this category are luxuries or extravagances, going shopping with a particular item in mind but then buying something else, impulsive purchasing, enjoying the find, planning and researching, shopping just to look for fun, spending more money, etc. The next question is, what do you tell yourself? So this is the justification series, I guess. And so, you know, how do you give yourself permission to overshop? It's okay to buy this because it will improve my quality of life, just makes me feel good, makes me feel special. I've had a hard day. It'll help me relax. I deserve it. I'm bored. It makes me laugh. It's so pretty. It's a distraction. It's good value, etc. It makes me feel more like my ideal image. That's a big one. It'll really please someone. It'll really annoy someone. You know, the list goes on. It even includes things like I can afford it and I can do whatever I want. So in each of these things, you star the items that Or you check the items that reflect your shopping profile and star them that pose an over-shopping threat to you. And then you reflect on the things that you starred, the over-shopping categories. Not all of these might be over-shopping. The ones that you just check are things that you do tell yourself, even if it's not something that's a problem in your shopping habits. So you might notice a pattern. For example, the author writes here, you might see that your worst shopping binges are on the internet in the middle of the night when others are sleeping, but that you almost never overshop on weekend evenings, even though you sometimes spend them at the mall. So you might be able to distinguish between the check marks and the stars, right? The stars being over-shopping tendencies, the check marks being normal shopping tendencies, kind of. And you might have some realizations about that. So again, you next reflect on where you shop, when you shop, with whom, for whom, and how you acquire what you want, what you actually buy, your shopping signature, and what you tell yourself. So we recap all of those. And then the next exercise, the shopping visualization for this chapter, is imagining something that you regret buying, or contemplating it. I guess it's a real thing that you have bought that you regret. And I guess there's an audio file. I haven't actually checked this, so I don't actually know if it's valid. Maybe I should quickly do that now. Well, alas, it's not working when I type in the address in my browser, but I'll check when I'm editing this. Maybe it exists, maybe it doesn't. But anyway, the point is you picture something that you regret buying, and you allow yourself to be curious without judgment about why you bought that thing. So you go back in time to when you were getting ready to buy it and try to remember what was going on, what made it seem so attractive or so important or so necessary. Maybe something happened that day or that week that made you want to buy something. Maybe it was something about the way you were feeling. Maybe you were hoping that it would give you something or manage something. Maybe you were bored, angry, or lonely. Maybe it was something about the act of shopping itself, etc. And then you explore your disappointment. So why are you regretful that you bought this thing? Maybe you didn't really want it in the first place and it was something else that you wanted. Maybe not even a thing. I've done numerous videos about that on this channel, how you are thinking that you're buying something to address this problem, this thing that you want, or that I want, to go back to the first person here. And nothing you buy can fix your problem. Nothing you buy can make you XYZ. Nothing you buy can give you this. It's like a little series on this channel at this point. Maybe I need to go back and do some more of those. Maybe I should start doing those in direct correlation with things that I actually regret buying. And then whatever it was, you notice how it feels to look at this purchase so closely and how it feels to get in touch with what the shopping and the purchase were all about in reality for you. And then you make a note of what came up. So this is a visualization exercise that you do kind of in your mind. There's some instructions to take, some deep breaths to get you in the mood, in the space. And then you come back and journal about it. So the things that came up for you during that visualization experience. So you kind of answer the questions that you answered earlier in the checklist. What was the time that you remembered? What was the item? Where were you? Were you alone or with somebody else? What do you remember? What do you remember about how you felt? What was it? Why did you buy it? What do you recall about that? Did you actually need it? How did you pay for it? Did you use it? All the questions that came up in the list. And the regret, why were you sorry you bought it? Were you sorry right away? Did it take some time? Did it lead to debt, shame, fear, and guilt? What were the aftershocks? How does it feel to look at this purchase so closely? What do you see now that you couldn't see before? So again, just examining these thoughts and these feelings about this purchase that you regret. There's another journal prompt in this as well. There's a lot of journals in this chapter. You and your stuff. It's a time to look at your relationship with the actual items you've acquired. What's the relationship been like? Hot romance followed by a quick breakup, a lovely honeymoon but then a gradual loss of interest. Was there a lifelong happy marriage? That's the goal, right? Have you grown to hate some of the items or already thrown them out? Let's play 20 questions. And again, I will try my best to show you these 20 questions if you want to pause it and look at those. This is a section of the book that is heavily notated though, so it might be a little bit difficult to see some of these. So it's basically, again, paralleling to some of the things that I've done on this channel, the explorations, examining some of the most prized possessions, which I kind of covered in the if I could only keep one of each category, clothes, makeup, other goods in my life. How and when did you acquire them? What sorts of items that you typically acquire bring you the greatest joy? What items typically bring you the greatest disappointment? After an item arrives in your home, how soon do you tend to unpack it? And then what do you do after you unpack it? Do you try to hide it? If you hide it, who are you hiding it from? And why? If you don't hide a new purchase, how long does it normally take you to install it into your life, to start consuming it fully? And again, in some of the decluttering videos, we noticed that some of the stuff was stuff that people forgot they had or shoved in the closet, so they weren't consuming it immediately. And to me, that is a red flag of something that you don't really need. Do you usually remember what you bought, or is it a surprise when you see it again? For what percentage of the items you acquire do you have in mind a specific planned use? How often do you actually use the item for that planned purpose? What percentage of the time do you purchase an item with the idea that you might return it? How often do you actually return it? How many items are in your possession right now that you intend to return? How often after purchasing or acquiring an item do your initial positive feelings become neutral or negative? What do you do with possessions you no longer want? What kind of clutter do you have in your home? What's the impact of your over-shopping and any clutter you may have? And given all the work you've done in this section and all that you've noticed, what's the most direct, honest, accepting thing you could say to yourself at this point? And those are basically all the exercises in chapter 3 here of your shopping self-portrait. And the idea is, after doing those explorations, that you have a detailed portrait, a picture of you and your shopping habits, your shopping triggers, your shopping situations where you might overshop, overconsume. And then we can move forward with chapter 4, which is becoming financially fit, which I will save for next month. So as always, if you had any revelations in your reflections here, feel free to share them in the comments below. Feel free to do this journal exercise as we did it in the video. If you've reached this point, hopefully you've already done that. It's kind of late to be inviting you to do that after we've gone through all the prompts, but here we are, there we are. And with that, I guess I will say goodbye for now and see you in the next one.